Oh man, I'm probably gonna get flack for this one. If it makes you feel any better, I have some reservations about it as well. So last night, Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, and I kind of wanted to talk about her, and but honestly, mostly about the judiciary and how it fits in to generally the general political landscape of the day. And one of the, obviously, there's gonna be legit criticisms of things I say. So let me know down below what they are. And also, I apologize. I am pretty wiped out. I had a fairly long work shift. It was 5.5 hours, which isn't that long, but it is right underneath the threshold required for 2 breaks. So, and it's been a while since I've last been. It's a couple days. Anyway, so I'm probably gonna sound a little bit more beat down than normal. So one of the reservations I had was that I criticized a lot of people like Screen Rant for profiting off of the death of Chadwick Boseman, and I decided that the difference is that just by virtue of being a public figure whose death is, the thing with life appointments is their death, when the person holding them dies, there's an inherently political conversation to be had about who gets to replace them and whatnot. And if you're a Republican, you're probably saying, well, duh, Trump should. To which I say, well, then why did Mitch McConnell the Democrats have a better reason. The election is actually imminent. Mitch McConnell refused to fill a seat for a year or half a year or something. Hopefully the Democrats are going to just stall the shit out of this. Oh, God damn it. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to do was I don't want to feel like I'm probably never going to get monetized, first of all. If I do, I don't want to feel like I'm profiting off of the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So I have decided that if I get monetized, any ad revenue and whatnot from this video will go to some charity, that preferably something that she liked. Something to advance women's empowerment in society. So I'll think about it later. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it, you guys. I have no audience, basically. I'm just shouting into the void, but it feels better than actually shouting into a literal void. Anyway, so hopefully the Democrats are going to stall the shit out of this. The reason I said "God damn it" and is that I was trying to keep it clean in order to hopefully increase the chances of monetization. That lasted a couple minutes. I am pretty tired. So the Democrats need to get good at realpolitik. I'm just gonna say that up front, I'm an anarchist, so I don't think we should even have a state. I don't think we should have a president or a Congress or a judiciary or like the idea that 9 people can decide the fate of 320 million is absurd to me. I don't care how smart they are, or they're all they're still not smart enough. They're not gods. They aren't omnipotent all good gods. They are people, and they have their own biases, and anyway. But I do think that if we I would prefer a stronger central government that would rein in capitalism than a just we're only going to implement state violence against people who break the rules of capitalism. Anyway, and I do I will be voting for Joe Biden in this election because okay, this is actually something I want to talk about. So, do you remember back when half of the conservatives were, more than half, but remember when all the conservative, traditional conservatives like Rand Paul and who's the Rick Perry, Ted Cruz, remember when they all were staunchly anti-Trump approximately 4 million years ago? Yeah. Do you remember how quickly they abandoned their principles? These like family values Christian conservatives married a guy who didn't even know how to say 2 Corinthians and who's been thrice divorced and has been into numerous affairs. Do you know why they did that? It's because they didn't care. They wanted to make life better for them, not and only them, not for anybody else, not for anybody outside of the white, traditionally Christian, conservative base. They wanted someone who would defund Roe V Wade, and not defund, but strike down Roe v. Wade. They wanted someone who would, curtail gay rights and all those things. All the things that they want, and they got that. And as much as I hate to say it, we have to do it too. And not so. I was talking with my sister, and my sister's come up a lot in these videos. They're like the only people I can talk to right now, and my parents. One of them said like, "Oh, you, if we fight dirty like the Republicans, then they're going to then we're gonna end up basically like them." And depends on how you look at it, because I wouldn't call myself a utilitarianist. I'm more of a moral relativist, but I lean heavily in the utilitarian direction. So how do I put this? Basically, it doesn't matter what the process was. It matters the results are what matter. So if you're gonna wheel and deal and make all these backroom things and it's for the 13th Amendment, to pass the 13th Amendment, totally worth it. Like, if you're gonna have to fight dirty in politics and make deals and, again, just get your hands dirty in order to, protect reproductive rights or your gay rights or any of the rights for anyone outside of the white Christian rich majority, you're gonna, like, at a certain, obviously, don't play dirty if you can have your cake and eat it too, do it. But, also maybe consider being pragmatic about it. And again, realpolitik. The ends justify the means has rightly come under criticism. I mean, especially even from a lot of leftists. And I would criticize, criticize like the government for saying like, well, torture justifies the means, and I would say that no, it doesn't. That's part of the you're not saving lives. Anyway, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm starting to pick up. I'm starting to, I ate something, I sat down, I started talking, and I'm starting to feel better. So obviously the ends justify the means is not a a universal statement. But there's a difference between torturing someone to get some information that might prevent some sort of attack at some point in the future, and making backroom deals in order to get enough votes to block the, because that's how the Republicans have been in power. They're not as popular as, we've Gore and not Gore, Bush and Trump both got less votes, but they played the game better. And so they won. I mean, and again, more systemic reform is needed, but I'm talking about immediate concerns. Like, we need to stop Trump from being overtly fascist, because he's look okay. If you don't think Trump's fascist, obsession with national humiliation, pro-toxic masculinity, pro-state violence, anti-socialist and communist and anarchist, anti-leftist, basically. He fits the criteria, and he's very authoritarian. That's what QAnon is. QAnon is basically an excuse for him to grab more power. And the thing is, it would be super unconstitutional, and the right is supposedly the ones who really care about the Constitution. Yeah, they don't. I mean, some libertarians have said that there's no basis for the census in the Constitution. It's in the sixth line. Yeah, so it's like the Bible. It's like the Bible. We are going to pick and choose what we want, things to justify what we already want to do. And that's I don't care if you're an Antonin Scalia type who thinks that we need to follow what the founders wanted, because if we could all do that, if we could know exactly what they wanted and follow it, and why would we have judges? That's the whole point of a judge. The whole point of a judge is to interpret the law. Antonin Scalia was what would the founding fathers have thought? While he also voted he voted in favor of the Entertainment Merchants Association in Brown v. EMA, which I think was a good ruling. But the founding fathers would what the question would have been inconceivable to the founding fathers. Also, I don't care what the founding fathers thought. It's like when people are it's an appeal to authority. They're oh, the Bible says so. Okay. The Bible condones slavery, genocide, and the thing that happened in Judges 19. Judges 19 alone should be disqualified for ever thinking, the Bible contradicts itself. And so even if you're trying to, when you're a biblical fundamentalist, you're just a conservative, or even more to the right. Because you're going to ignore things, because it is not, it's too, you can't have it all the ways. It's not the founding fathers disagreed on what the Constitution meant. It's always been about power. It's always, and not just power. It's always been about social movement. It's always been about society, about the way society should be run. So I feel like there again, there's an emphasis on the process and not the results. So there's the old cry of don't politicize this mass shooting and push for gun control, which is a bit funny because they also politicize every single terror attack about how we need to keep immigrants out, and I can see the argument that there's a certain there's a time and place for those types of discussions, but we should have them. we should have them. Maybe we don't have to talk about it immediately, but like at least like maybe a week later or something, we should have those discussions. Like it's, and again, you guys rush to politicize every attack. You know, by you guys I mean Fox News. Hey Fox, as an institution, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, Fox. So the how do I put this? So like the things that people get mad about, though, like the things that like liberals and leftists have gotten mad about, you know, with the Trump administration, they haven't ever been about the process, you know? Like, even though the Muslim ban, I would argue, is still unconstitutional, no one was really making that argument, were they? At least not that I've seen. Because it was inhumane, you know? And that's, like, what my sister also said, the same one who I was talking about earlier, she also told me once, like, you can't pick and choose what laws you follow. Yes, you can, and you kind of have to, especially, I mean, I don't think she meant that as a literal, like universal law, because, like, does that apply to the laws in Nazi Germany or the Jim Crow? Like, it's weird because I feel like most people will acknowledge that basically any law they don't have to deal with, any law that was in the past, or, you know, they argue that those laws should have definitely been broken because in that case morality outweighed the law, you know? And it's like, okay, does that apply to any of today's laws? Because we got mandatory minimum laws that have people in prison for like 55 years. So if I go and, you know, I could go and break open a prison and like let all the people out who are almost all, again, low-level drug offenders. That's why we have such a big prison population. That would be moral because they don't like, but it's like, oh no, then you got to trust the law. And it's like, okay. Anyway, I should have like prepared a bit more for this. I should have like written down all the notes because I've been kind of jumping around. I kind of wanted to do it one by one, but yeah, and so yeah, I mean, pretty much there's this weird like finger pointing that keeps happening. Like especially I think it's more on the right, but it does happen on the left too. Especially the liberals in the center. Sorry. I'm still having to kind of gather my thoughts. I'm having trouble even remembering what I was talking about. There's no one here to tell me what it was. What was it? Yeah, so finger pointing. So, you know, there's things like, you know, they're like, oh, you know, these football players shouldn't tell us that police brutality is bad, or they shouldn't tell us that Beyonce shouldn't tell us to vote for Hillary Clinton. But here we got Scott Baio to speak at our convention, and it's like, okay, you're just, again, you just like what Scott Baio is saying more. So just admit it. Just be like, just stop trying to talk up these weird, there's these super weird like rules that you can't break, I guess. But all you have to do is make a show of not breaking them. So again, the Republicans can be like, yeah, like no one cares about your thoughts, just keep acting. Well, first of all, there are plenty of other, like, does an electrical engineer have to stick to what they know best? Because they don't know, they're not know all the intricacies of politics, but they're allowed to have an opinion, right? So anyway, there's that, and there's the whole, again, like, I think we need to stop arguing about how people say something and start arguing about what they say. Like, again, it's weird. It's really weird that that people will just accuse each other of this, when it doesn't matter. I mean, if I really didn't care about, I don't care about what Scott Baio thinks. Scott Baio hasn't been relevant in decades. I had no idea who he was until I heard about him at the national convention because he was the best guy they could get. Which I think is pretty funny, but also I don't care what he has to say. Yeah. I also want to switch over a little bit. This is actually a really bad segue. But I want to talk about how do I put this? How the law is enforced. And I'm going to go back to media, for example, and I am going to, just talk about okay. And I know that using media, to inform your worldview can be pretty dicey, especially fiction, because I'm going to talk about The Dark Knight, and specifically about Harvey Dent after he becomes Two-Face. And this is actually something I've been kind of meaning to talk about for a while, because I've never really heard of someone actually talking about this. So, Harvey Dent goes off the wall, and he his coin gets burned, and he's like, okay, 50-50 chance is the only fair way. Yeah, but he finds a way to make it unfair. If you notice, the first time he shoots someone, he's just like, oh yeah, he flips the coin, oh, you're not lucky, bang. The second time he's meeting with a mob boss, basically trying to get revenge, and he flips the coin, and it comes up tails, and he's like, okay. Then he flips the coin for the driver, which is odd because there's no indication that the driver had anything to do with it, but he came up. But it comes up heads and he shoots the driver. He shoots the driver and the driver dies. And then the other guy dies too. So even though his ruling is about as fair as it can get, it's still prone to corruption by human. The law is not a perfect system. The law is not it's never been. And there are so many ways that we can there are so many examples you can, like, the tank guy from Tiananmen Square. Like, again, there are a ton of examples of people who break the law. I mean, think about the people who celebrate the Boston Tea Party. Like, yeah, that was technically an act of rebellion, but you don't seem like they romanticize rebellion as long as it's not present rebellion, as long as it's not the actual status quo. Again, I'm speaking in overly broad terms. I'm not trying. This is just all from my perspective. I'm not trying to, like, strawman anybody or anything. So if you disagree and you have a reason why you disagree, let me know, and I will probably disagree with you, and I will tell you that. Yeah. So I think that I don't know. This is actually a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be. Which is good because I actually have to call the Board of Elections before they close. They called me for some reason. I don't know why. Yeah, so I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. There's probably something I'm forgetting. Again, I had a lot of thoughts about this. Let me think. I talked about like the nature of the law. I talked about how it's corruptible, even if you're following it perfectly. All that good stuff. I talked about the. What else? I talked about. I talked very briefly about RBG. And also, I'm not. Like, anarchism is not I would argue it's the best solution. It is definitely not the only solution. I mean, John Oliver proposed a couple of ideas, like spacing out, because like if you have people for lifetime appointments, what happens if they get old and if they start like to get dementia or Alzheimer's or something? And that there have been times where the age just admitted that they were like trying to figure out what these guys would guess. So the age of Antonin Scalia might have been trying to figure out what Antonin Scalia was trying to figure out about what the founding fathers would have wanted. Which is kind of funny, but also kind of horrifying because. And there are solutions that would keep a Supreme Court. I would argue it does not undercut the same basic problem that you have 9 people who can basically this is actually one thing I did not talk about. 9 people who can override an election, basically. I mean, I'm talking about the Bush v. Gore. On the one hand, yeah, it is more complicated than that. They can't just do that whenever they want. But still, it is a bit weird that the 9 Republicans voted against the recount, right? Not the 9 Republicans, the 5 Republicans voted against the recount. And the 4, it was perfectly split along party lines. Like, this is one of the things John Oliver suggested was making judicial appointments, there'd be like 2 per president. And one of the arguments against that was apparently like, oh, but that would make it, like not work, or that would make it too politicized. It's like, yeah, that ship has sailed. Sorry. If you're watching John Oliver, again, my delusions just keep getting grander. Sorry for paraphrasing you. Anyway, so I also do want to talk about, I do kind of want to talk about, basically I want to talk about what this, I do feel like it's a shame. Like, I don't, like, when I first heard about her death, I didn't feel sad. I felt, like, scared. I felt like, and stressed out and like, another one of these. We've already been through 2. And I do feel, okay, I'm going to take a moment and talk about, RBG as a person, because even though I don't think anyone should have held the job that she had, I think that she was one of the best people for that job, and I actually really respect her, and I would have liked to meet her and talk about stuff. I also think her husband, not to stray too much, but I think her husband he's kind of like the ideal that I aspire to if I ever actually end up in a romantic relationship. Yeah, so yeah, she seems like she was a good person. I don't know. I tend to judge people by their actions, and I don't know much about her actions, but I can see why people liked her. I liked her. I am, as much as I think that the Supreme Court is bad, I also am a pragmatist. That's why I am voting for Joe Biden, because unless we have the revolution before November, I would just rather be stuck with Biden than stuck with Trump. I'm willing to put aside my ideals to get something that I want. Because that is fulfilling my ideals. Like, ideals are all well and good if you act on them. If you can make them happen, and sometimes you might have to compromise to make them happen. Don't be like Rorschach. Spoilers for Watchmen, by the way. Don't be like Rorschach. Don't undo everything just because. Don't try and yeah. So I'm sure there are people who romanticize Rorschach. He does feel kind of romanticized. I think he's sad. I think he's really sad. But anyway, this isn't a video about Watchmen. So the um the so yeah so that's the problem is the only way that her death affects my life at all is by her appointment on the Supreme Court. Because she had so much power. And most people's deaths don't directly affect me either. Obviously, I'm a big proponent of the idea of no one is an island, never sent to know for whom the bell tolls. But if RBG was not a Supreme Court justice, her death would be sad, and I would be sympathy for everyone who knew her and cared for her, but I wouldn't be affected in any way. The only way her death affects me and the people I care about is by who's gonna be next. Yeah. So there's something else. Roe v Wade, for instance. Let's talk about Roe v Wade. I'm pretty sure you can guess where I stand. This is actually like one of the only things I agree with Ayn Rand on, because Ayn Rand was pro-choice. She was also terrible in almost every other way, but she was pro-choice. I feel like it's like how okay I'm just gonna say it. How is a fetus a person? Like, serious, or not even a fetus. Most of the time it's not even, it's like either a fetus or a zygote. How are they people? They're bundles of cells that are just starting to become people. And I'm not trying to, abortion is complicated, for people who are having it. I haven't, I'm never going to experience anything like that. But sorry. But like, I philosophically, I don't see how you can argue that something that doesn't think, that doesn't feel, like doesn't move, is a human being. Like, they literally have tails, and it's ridiculous, and it's such a like I don't want to I feel like most people tend to treat this concept with, oh, maybe both sides has a point or whatever. I don't see it. I really cannot understand why anyone would be against it. I mean, it's also, they're not in favor. Again, if you want less, I would like less abortions. Because there's never, they never seem like they're an easy choice to make. And the, but you know how you do that? You do it with comprehensive sex ed and access to affordable, and this is so old hat, especially among the left and liberals. It's like, yeah, you give a, but it's speaking, I'm basically just paraphrasing Innuendo Studios video about where he basically is like, there's no, they don't want to decrease abortions, they want to punish women who have abortions. Apparently women also get apparently women also get like conservative wealthy women will get them, but they'll still be pro-life. Also, like, this is all okay. So this is like, you're also, these are also tend to be the support our troops kind of people, and I'm not trying to cast any, I'm not trying to make judgments about individual soldiers, but Bush used 9/11 and the trauma, and he weaponized it, and 30 to 40,000 people have died because of that, because it, as a direct in civilians in the Iraq War. So why is that okay? Like obviously there's nothing, I'm not trying to make moral judgments or trying to I am making moral judgments. But I'm not trying to excuse happening 9/11, because it was senseless, it was stupid, it was horrible, it was there was no reason for it. It was awful. why does that give America an excuse to kill at least 10 times the number of people who died in 9/11? Like, and I think it's hard to accept for a lot of people, but in our culture, we value American lives over any other lives of people from any other countries, you know? Like, how many times has there been a newscast where they say X number of people died, including Y Americans? You know, they wouldn't say the number of Americans if they didn't think that people wouldn't care otherwise, that people wouldn't be more affected by the fact that some of them were Americans, you know? So it's American exceptionalism. It's, we are special because God, and that gives us an excuse to act as the world's police. So yeah, I don't. I think that I think that it's not a good thing, you know. And again, how can you be in favor? How can you call yourself pro-life? You know, and you insist that any like celled thing, like any like a zygote or a fetus, how can you argue that they are people, but like Palestinians are not? You know, I'm just thinking of Ben Shapiro at this point. Ben Shapiro's like said like, I don't care. He's like, you know, pro-life. He's also like, I don't care about I don't care how many Palestinians die. Maybe it'll strike some terror into the hearts. And I'm like, a militant force that's using indiscriminate violence as a way of causing terror to induce some sort of social change or societal change. I wonder if there should be a word for that. Yeah, and again, so remind me again how bad women who have abortions are. Remind me again how many, like, again, children die. Children, Palestinian children and Iraqi children and Afghani children have died. You know, not out of malice. No one, I'm as far as I know, no American has ever like actively killed a civilian child. I hope not. But if you're bombing towns, there's always going to be casualties, and I don't see, like, what did this accomplish? What did the Iraq War accomplish? Why are we in Afghanistan? What is it doing? Why are we there? Why? It's such a stupid, like, some people, some of my peers, I mean, I had to sign up for the draft. If I get drafted, I might be fighting in a war that I was like a child, like less than a year old when it started. Or no, I guess it would have been, well, depends on the war we're talking about. I would have been like at the oldest 2 years old. Why should I go and fight for that? Because like, it's not defending our freedom. Our freedoms are under threat from the state, you know, from the Patriot Act, from the NSA, from the CIA. Like, they're not under threat from Afghanis. Like, anyway, I know this was a video about RBG. It wasn't really, I mean, it was, again, part of the things that we're going to have to talk about criminal justice. We're going to have to talk about Roe V Wade. We're going to, you know, and Roe V Wade is linked, you know, it's connected. It's like, again, Roe v. Wade is linked to you know, because people call it linked to the wars by the people who have who say they're pro-life, but again are totally fine, or at least not willing to think about civilian casualties in other countries that we cause. Yeah. So, encoding overloaded. Alright, I don't know. Okay, at this point I should probably just stop. I'll maybe do an addendum piece if there's something else I want to say. Yeah, thanks for listening to me God damn it, OBS. Why do you just will randomly overload? It's like I'm not doing anything different. Yeah. So I'm sorry for for having even less charisma. I'm tired both from work and from I've been thinking a lot about this, and I'm gearing up for. I'm just so tired of all of this, and yeah. All right. On that happy note, if you want to see more, I usually do stuff about media. In case you didn't, and which if you've only seen this video, you probably don't know. But I usually do stuff about media. So if you want to see more of that, and I'm obviously a very political person. I'm far left and all that. So be sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell and send this to your friends if you hate. Send this to your friends or if you liked it and your friend if you hate it. Leave a comment. Send a singing telegram. I don't know why. I just thought of the singing telegram from Clue. I don't know. You know the drill. I'm sure you've heard it a million times before. All right. Thank you for watching. I will hopefully, things will get better from here on out. All right.